Good day, everybody. My name is Rohan D'Souza, and a big welcome to all of you from whichever part of the world you're joining in today. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to go through how to do a business value-based design of your solutions. And before you say it, yes, it is possible to do so. It's all about simplifying the path to the intelligent enterprise. Where do we start? Business value for customers could have different meanings. And for one customer, it might be delivering that electric car out there to the market. To another, it might be how to reduce wastage in the retail store as far as fresh food is concerned. And possibly for a third customer, it might be all about getting the customer into the retail store so that he can then sell the new jewelry box he might have just launched. And whichever form of business value you might be looking at, many of the customers may need to do a business transformation to be able to get to this. And this business transformation might be a business process redesign and or a technical migration, all in an effort to build an intelligent enterprise. So let's take a use case here to understand what is it that customers really want. And in this particular case, let's consider a remote site. I don't know, maybe something like a remote island way out there. And on this island, we have no electricity, no communication, no nothing. Now, the business question to ask here is, what is the type of irrigation that the customer needs to do to maximize his yield? Yeah. And in this effort, he might be looking to lower his work for the workforce and at the same time maximize his use of technology. Quite obviously, a lot of expertise will be needed here, from domain experts in irrigation to communication specialists who understand low power networks, to big data specialists who can then look to collect sensory data, unstructured, and try and make some sense out of that. And finally, all of this information needs to connect back to the core ERP. This is where the SAP guy or girl comes in. Now, fast forwarding this a few steps, for us, this could be an SAP HANA project with S4 HANA and analytics. There would be some integration to a Hadoop cluster and a data lake there. And given that the customer may want to have some sort of footprint on-prem to ensure low latency, as well as some deployments in the cloud, hybrid cloud solutions also is one of the discussion points. From a technology perspective, there are various SLAs and KPIs that we have to look at. Performance, how do we meet the requirements from the SAP application? What are the certifications that we have to keep in mind? Yeah, so HANA has its own do's and don'ts as far as that is concerned. High availability, what is it that we require to ensure that the application is always up and running? Best practices, do we have some sort of document where we have done such a deployment in the past? Are the blueprints available? How do I monitor the environment? A lot of questions, and the more you look at a Pandora's box, the more complicated it might get. Yeah, but the key thing here is that you need to have these discussions with your customers, but always think of the business impact. Now, from Fujitsu's perspective, we look to do an end-to-end holistic journey for the customer here, and we want to do this from a data-driven perspective. Some of us would find the black portion here, where you have the discover, prepare, explore, realize, and deploy and run phase. This should be quite familiar because this is the customer journey map for a customer who is implementing SAP application there, and SAP talks to this customer in this tone. But what we are saying is that we want to start from one step before, wherein we're looking at business insights, looking at business success criteria. And then, in an effort to meet this criteria, if part of the solution is an SAP solution, we then branch out into the standard process that we see ahead. And when we run through the process and we come towards the end, we deploy the solution, we then step back, have a look at it, and see how can we further exploit this to deliver additional business values. Now, to help standardize the stages, Fujitsu has offered different consulting services which are more infrastructure oriented. Yeah, so that means from Humancentric Design to HANA readiness and so on and so forth. These are all close to the box platform services to help consult with the customer to deliver the right solution. And these services can be used in conjunction with application services from either Fujitsu or from an SAP consulting partner. They both go hand in hand. Oh yeah, before I forget, on the bottom right of my slides, you will see a link here where you can click to get more information. Now, I know it's not possible for me to talk on each slide in full detail, but feel free to download the slides and then click on those links and get the information that you need. Now, the first step is all about doing a human-centric design approach, the co-creation program. Here, what we say is that we want to sit with the customer and understand the business challenge. And this we want to do without really jumping into a solution mode. We want to really hear the customer out. We look at issues from a different lens. And as you can imagine, you need to have both business and technology experts working together to develop a rapid outline concept which we can then experiment with to arrive to the final solution. Many a times, all of the skills may not be with the customer or with Fujitsu, and hence, we really encourage to work with partners here and then build a solution together along with our partners. A true ecosystem approach to solution design. Once we know that the solution required is an SAP solution, we then have to start addressing the customer's needs from that perspective. Whilst a lot of the application and business consultants will be talking to the customer, explaining to the customer what are the values of going HANA, S4 HANA, what is it, the impact on, say, an HR business process, or how is it that we can make procurement more efficient when it comes to S4 HANA, we have to also have a discussion from a data center perspective, because the data center needs to transform in lockstep with the business and application transformation. Both of them go hand in hand. We talk about business continuity from a migration and a modernization perspective to ensure that the business environments get what they need, but in proper changes in the data center as well. We talk about evaluating what the customer has in the data center, try to understand what is it needed from a maintenance perspective, from a security concept. And when it comes to HANA, you have to even dig deeper. You want to see, okay, we have an appliance concept, we have tailored data center integration, where you can do a lot of reuse of the environment. Or we have to see, we want to have a management framework to meet the business SLAs, some sort of dashboarding from a converged or hyper-converged solution. So all of this is really relevant. And we then also look to see something like high availability and backup and recovery. What are the business SLAs that are needed, and then configure the required technology solution to support the business here. So while the previous step may be more an education session, a discovery mode, the next step is about preparing the customer for that particular environment, specific to the customer's use case. And here, especially for customers who have an existing SAP environment, Fujitsu offers the system inspection service for SAP, wherein we can deploy agents into the running SAP environment, collect load information over a period of time, and then use this to make educated decisions. And the customer requirements that have to be addressed can be quite varied. It can be that he has, some existing performance problem that he doesn't want to see in a new environment going forth, or he want to find a way to adapt the existing SAP environment to cater to new requirements. How to optimize on TCO, or simply he might say, you know what, I just want to do an inventory of it all. Please give me a list of all that I have. Regardless of what he wants to do, the system inspection service can help here. Now, while the objective could be quite individual, be it an S4HANA pre-study, sizing, or even cloud readiness, the methodology remains quite the same. So we have to then measure the environment for some time. Now, the slide here says 7 days or more, but really speaking, we would say about a month. And frankly, the more you collect the data, the better you are. Ideally speaking, we want to ensure that the peak loads are captured, be it on month end or be it annual peaks, because then you can really get insights from this to develop the overall solution design as we go forward. The whole idea is to be able to support the whole decision-making process. And the system inspection service gives you a web-based portal where you can deep dive into the load scenarios and make data-driven recommendations as well. So here's an example of a customer who has measured the entire environment for the ECC, the ERP system, as well as the BW environment. And you see this for the development, quality, and production. And if you look at the graphs, you can see the graph will quite easily, you can check out what the peaks are over the period of time, not just on the instance as a whole, but individual application layers as well. And then the the system inspection tool allows you to then zoom into certain sections, get greater detail of that workload pattern, and possibly then look to see, okay, does this happen somewhere else, and how do I compare different aspects of my environment at the same time? So it's really very intuitive. And once you have the data that you need, the next step, of course, is to build the core architectural design. Now, we spoke about the KPIs and SLAs in a previous slide here, and we talked about various KPIs. Now, I won't be able to talk about how the architectural design is impacted on each one of those points, so I'm going to touch upon just three. Best practice and certifications, yeah, sizing on performance needs, yeah, SAPs, and downtime, be it planned or unplanned downtimes. The first thing is, of course, when you talk about HANA, you have certified appliances. Yeah, so the certified appliance is where you have a more black box approach, where each of the vendors, including Fujitsu, works with SAP to benchmark the hardware, best in breed CPU and memory and disk infrastructure to ensure the performance KPIs of HANA can be met. Besides the black box approach of appliances, SAP also gives customers flexibility. Yeah, then the flexibility could be that rather than using local disks within the HANA system, you can use an external storage, yeah, via the tailored data center integration. And this external storage can be Fujitsu, yeah, can be a NetApp storage as well that Fujitsu resells and has expertise around, or it can even be a Dell EMC or any other third-party storage that a customer may already have, wherein Fujitsu can then integrate the compute from our portfolio with the storage environment from third party. And this is even true for networking as well. Yeah. So really the customer has a lot of flexibility, and Fujitsu has the know-how how to build this. A special form of TDI is what Fujitsu offers to the Fujitsu PrimeFlex for SAP landscapes. Yeah. And this is driven by Flexum orchestration software, which is an end-to-end management stack. And we will see how this special stack can add value to an environment in some of the slides as we go ahead. Now, besides the database perspective, you also need to size the application tier. Yeah? And in the application tier, it's all about doing SAPs-based sizing. So Fujitsu provides for the expertise where we can do the required consulting and design of the architecture based on SAPs. And this is based on hardware which has got record performance year on year. What you see here in front of you is the Hall of Fame. Yeah? From many years back, we have been hitting peaks and world records when it comes to ST benchmarks. And now in the world of HANA, we also have BW benchmarks with HANA, with persistent memory, with standard VMware environments, virtualized workloads. Yeah, so year on year, we are working to deliver excellence when it comes to the best innovation and hardware technology that you have. And by the way, all of the solutions work with SUSE. Yeah, so we have SLES for SAP, yeah, which is SUSE Enterprise Linux for SAP, wherein SUSE delivers specialized functionality for SAP customers from the operating system as well. And this is based on functions as well as support. Now, beyond the standard hardware, Fujitsu also offers pre-integrated solutions through the PrimeFlex offering. And so you have converged solutions, where you have the PrimeFlex for SAP HANA, where the appliances both scale up and scale out, as well as PrimeFlex for SAP landscapes, which is a whole end-to-end management stack catering to SAP HANA as well as other SAP workloads as well. Some customers may also have hyperconverged as part of their deployments. Yeah, so they have standardized saying that, okay, going forward, we want to have everything on hyperconverged environments. But did you know that even for hyperconverged environments, you need to have special certified hardware to run your HANA environments? And Fujitsu has done the needed certification both for vSAN as well as Nutanix Enterprise Cloud Solutions. Yeah, so really, from a solution perspective, you really have an end-to-end portfolio to choose from. Right, so from a standard hardware and portfolio, it sounds quite familiar, yeah? But I think let us get more into the design phase. From a lifecycle perspective, SUSE has, from their end, a lot to offer, be it provisioning, deployment, operate, optimization, transformation, monitoring, etc., etc. And the solution offerings can be from SUSE Manager, Salt, High Availability, SAP Tune, LTSS support. There really is a full portfolio that SUSE themselves gives to you, irrespective of Fujitsu or otherwise. Now, from today's discussion's point of view, I'm going to touch upon just three, which is the SUSE manager, the high availability extensions of the cluster, and live patching. Now, when it comes to designing HA concepts, my focus is going to be more on the HANA, yeah, because you have some things that you have to keep in mind, yeah, and really you have to go back to business. Yeah? So let's think back to the scenario where we have the island, yeah, and on this island we want to make sure that the systems are up and running on the on-prem deployment, yeah, where there's a HANA database. So you can either go performance optimized, where you have an HA configuration based on system replication, yeah, and in the performance optimized, you have a standby node. In this standby node, whatever data is being updated on the production node is been replicated to a standby node, and the standby node practically is sitting there waiting for something to happen on the production system. And if that happens, the cluster will then switch over the database connections to the standby node, bring it online, and the application tier can continue working. And this can happen in a few minutes. Yeah. The plus point is that this happened really quickly. Okay. But the flip side is you practically have a hardware server sitting there waiting for something to go wrong. And while this can be critical for applications where you cannot afford downtime, where the downtime practically means loss of millions of dollars, some customers might say, you know what, my business, I can cater to about an hour or so downtime. Yeah, so maybe having the dedicated hardware for the standby node may not be the best way to go about it. Yeah, for such customers, the SUSE cluster can also be configured as a cost optimizer approach. So here as well you have system replication, again synchronous. Yeah, but the difference is on the standby node here, you now load only the row store of the HANA database, which is quite small compared to the columnar store. And the rest of the data is then freed up where you can then use that space either for a quality or a development HANA system. Yeah. Now here what happens is, if there is a production system which goes down, the cluster will then say, okay, we have a failure. Let me first go to the standby node and shut down the dev and quality system. And once that is done, it starts to load the columnar data back in memory for production before opening that. As you can imagine, this will take some time, and hence the failover time for a cost optimized solution is much longer than for performance. Yeah, and again, you can see the business implication here. You really need to go back to the customer and say, okay, what is the business impact of having such a long failover time? And then make a recommendation of which one of these two are the right choices. Now, what SUSE clusters can also allow you to do is that you can do a daisy chain approach where you have a remote site where you do a HANA system replication asynchronous, possibly due to bandwidth or latency issues. And then you can then say that, okay, on the production side, you have an HA-based cluster, which is based on synchronous replication HANA, and an asynchronous daisy chain approach for a DR site as well. Yeah? So that is an extension of this cluster concept. Now, beyond the unplanned downtime, which practically only kicks in when something goes wrong, we also need to think about how to do planned downtime. Yeah? So as part of the life cycle, you might have to do an upgrade, and as part of the SAP application upgrade, there might be a need to also upgrade the kernel of the operating system. Now, as per standard approaches, when you upgrade the kernel, you would take a downtime, possibly reboot the system, and then you will have a new functionality, and then you start the application again on the new kernel. Now, with SUSE live patching, you can do all of this online. So what happens is, whilst you're doing the patch update online, when there's a call to the old function, the environment will simply do a no-op redirect to the new function while the patching is in process, and then return the result from part of the new function. Yep, simple. Yeah, I mean, okay, I know I may have oversimplified it a little bit, but that's the beauty of it. Yeah, all the complexities of this, or the live patching environment, is taken care of by SUSE, whereas you, from an administration perspective, can simply carry on with your work. The users can use the system while the patching is in process, and you can possibly enjoy your coffee as all of this happens. Yeah, so quite easy to use. A lot of it happens in the back end. Now, besides the patching of the kernel itself, you might want something which is more holistic. Yeah? So that means going back to our island, we mentioned there that the customer was doing a hybrid deployment where he had some instances on-prem and some in the cloud. How is it that you're going to be deploying the operating system and patch management across this? Now, you need to have something which can automate it, which can orchestrate it, and at the same time help you manage the environment both on-prem and in the cloud as well. And many times you might want to have different flavors or different version of the operating system running, yeah. And SUSE Manager helps you to do all of this and more. Yeah, you can do this across dev, test, and production. Beyond this, you can also use this for reporting and security patches, where you want to do verification of the patches, the application of the patches, or you want to do compliance check for SAP basis checks as well. So all of this can be run through SUSE Manager. And when you look at the deployment in the data center, some customers might end up having a lot of layers. Yeah? So you have management stack for the storage, for the network, for the servers, for the virtualized environment. Hey, it may even be for the database and the application as well. And when then you suddenly bring even HANA in it, HANA might have its own management interfaces as well. So from an operational perspective, this can be sometimes quite a nightmare. And hence what Fujitsu has done in partnership with SAP and with NetApp, Fujitsu has developed a PrimeFlex for SAP landscape powered by FlexFrame Orchestrator, where you can have an end-to-end management solution which cuts across all of these layers, yeah, from the storage all the way up to the application, be it Oracle, DB2, or the HANA database. Yeah. Effectively, you can even do this for non-SAP as well, but the solution comes pre-educated for SAP environments where it understands the architecture. From a benefits perspective, there are many. But a core statement to remember here is any SAP service, anytime, on any server, be it physical or virtual. Yeah. So we don't care where the SAP service runs. Through the unique SAP awareness and SAP virtualization concept that FlexFrame delivers, you can start an SAP instance anywhere. Yeah. Be it in a virtual machine, be it on a physical server, move it from KVM to ESXi, yeah, P2V, V2P operations, and all of this is done through x86 environments based on Linux. And here, SUSE Linux is the flavor of the day. So as you can imagine, this helps you improve quality of service. Yeah, you can define different SLAs, different HA concepts, where you can do an N:(n) HA concept or N+1 configurations. And all of this comes across virtual machines or physical servers alike. Yeah. So you can have automated provisioning, orchestration. It really makes life of running the environment a lot more simpler. Now I know I cannot do full justice in this 30 minutes that I have. So I urge you to please click on the link below and learn some more, because really this is a unique solution that Fujitsu has in the market today. And this comes with SUSE as an operating system. Now, when you want to extend the functionality of FlexFrame to go beyond, yeah, so we have the infrastructure provisioning and orchestration benefits. When you want to go to a layer above, take for example connection to Llama from SAP, yeah, or you want to have smart HA concept based on system replication, or a holistic monitoring for the basis team, where you can do workload monitoring of the work processes and spool processes, yeah, or automated backup and recovery. You want to automatically create clones. Yeah, so all of this can be done through extension packs along with lifecycle management as well. Yeah, and this extension packs are brought to you through our partner LNW Soft. And I know that a lot of customers today are looking to go hybrid. Yeah, so there's a lot of cloud conversation and the customers are trying to look how to leverage a cloud. There is also a hybrid cloud bridge that LNW Soft has developed, wherein you can move workloads from on-prem to the cloud and vice versa, which is SAP application aware. Yeah, so a lot of this can be done by underlying technology from say an HCI solution as well. But the difference here is the movement of the instance is SAP application aware. Yeah, so it is quite different. And if you use this in conjunction, say with a system implementation service, you can then use the cloud bridge to place the right workload to the right place, yeah, either on-prem or the respective flavors of cloud that you have. And if you want to go beyond this thing and say do managed services like Azure Workload Management, because once you get there, you want to optimize in the cloud, or you want to do basis operations, yeah, or SAP application management. So Fujitsu can offer this end-to-end, or we can offer this in conjunction with our partners. Now, once the solution is designed, you want to ensure that this solution becomes the reality, yeah. And we do this with the help of implementation packs. So these are standardized services which helps customers and partners to deploy the design solution in the customer data center and ensuring all of the best practices and quality standards are adhered to. Yeah, so you get it ready to use. It is quite quick. Yeah, and you have a single point of contact when it comes to such service matters. Beyond that, when the implementation is done and the environment is running, you have to support it. And the support periods can be from 5 years or even beyond, where the customer wants to raise some concerns about the environment, something is not working, you want to troubleshoot it. And generally, in such environments, you might have Fujitsu hardware, you might have SUSE operating system, you might have a NetApp storage, and the customer then has to say, okay, where do I send a ticket to? But with a solution contract, the customer can have a single point of contact to raise a ticket, and then Fujitsu will ensure that whether it is a Fujitsu component or a third-party component, they will address the needs. And you can even do proactive services like health checks, patch information management, and a lot more. So the solution contract really helps the customer simplify the operations. Now, beyond that, while a lot of this talks about the technology perspective, Fujitsu also offers a pay-as-you-go service. So when you design an environment, generally the customer can buy everything up front, CAPEX, but in today's cloud world, a lot of OPEX conversations also happen. So, and you'd like to have an environment which has a billing model which grows and shrinks with the workload. And this is exactly what the use scale model gives you. It not only makes the data center attractive, the technology part, but using use scale, the balance sheet now becomes a lot more attractive. Simplified, predictable cost across the entire life cycle. And finally, we talk about customer references. Be it ISO Technology, Dubai Refreshment Corporations, Nakilat, Seremtech, or Globus. We have customers all across the world who are deploying SAP solutions from Fujitsu's portfolio, and not just the hardware, but also the consultancy services. Feel free to click on the link down to learn more, because these are really testimonials of how Fujitsu delivers the required business values to our customers, and you learn how they have now taken the next step to delivering additional business value beyond just infrastructure. So with that, I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the session. Stay safe. Cheers. Bye-bye.